morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Whereas one Marvel movie hits theaters, the next one pops up on the horizon. And that's, of course, the upcoming Black Panther movie. Big announcements made at Comic-Con, but it still has seemed very much in the wings. But it's going to start to seem a lot more like a reality very soon, as they are set to start filming in January of next year. And we know this because casting calls have gone out for extras for the movie in Atlanta. Now, a lot of movies shoot in Atlanta, and a lot of Marvel movies to boot. For instance, Chris Evans has been known to talk about how hot it gets in Atlanta, particularly when you're wearing a superhero costume. But what I think is particularly nice about shooting Black Panther in Atlanta is that Atlanta has a very large African American population. In fact, I believe that it has the largest African American population of any major city in the United States. So I think there's something fitting about recreating Wakanda there. And the fact that people in Atlanta are going to be able to participate in the movie as extras, this extras casting call is huge, I think is very exciting. You know, usually extra work, it's fun to be on set, but it's hard to transition from an extra to an actual actor. There's a little bit of a stigma there. And sometimes it can be very difficult work because I don't know if they do this as much today because in the internet you can more easily tell on people, but there are all these horror stories of extras having to be kept in pens and told not to look at the lead actors in the eye, and also even little things like having to eat last off of the food cart after they watch everybody else be served, from the in front of the camera talent to the behind the camera talent. I always felt when I heard stories like that, why not have a separate extras food truck? But no, let's instead insult them as they stand here. But anyway, I'm sure that Ryan Coogler will do a better job with this, the treating of the extras here, especially because I think it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people to be an extra in Black Panther and to portray the citizens of the fictional African country of Wakanda, which is supposed to be a utopia and a very advanced society. But it doesn't forget about its tribal roots, so it's really kind of like the past and the future of Africa today. So it's very exciting. So this is the casting call, and if you're in Atlanta or near Atlanta, they're not going to put you up. You'll have to be able to commute yourself, and you want to submit to be an extra in Black Panther. There's a link down below in the video description on how to audition. Right. So what they're going to do is they have a call out for anyone from the age of 18 to 90. So anyone can participate, and they would love to have older people participate because, of course, Wakanda has many elders living within the country. So they encourage tattoos and piercings. Usually they want you to be as blank a slate as possible, but this time they want personality. They want, pride and culture. And they said they also are looking for shaved heads, men and women, probably to portray soldiers in Wakanda. But look at this. They're also looking for drummers, mixed martial artists, people who are good at boxing, wrestling, weapons skills like knife fighting, stick fighting. So that to me says that you might get, a special position as an extra and maybe even get yourself a little camera time. Maybe they're going to be putting, I would imagine that at some point in the movie, Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa is going to show off his country to a visitor, perhaps Captain America, or maybe Martin Freeman, who's, going to be supposed to be the UN representative for Wakanda. But anyway, there might be like a scene like that, because T'Challa is a regal figure. He's a king, so he has to entertain dignitaries, etc. So that sounds to me like they're getting ready for that kind of a scene. And I think to a lot of people that would, it's instead of it just being the usual extra gig, I think this could be truly something special, which is great for the movie because if people feel that way about being an extra in the film, that's going to translate on screen, that pride and excitement, and make the movie all the better for it. So the open casting calls, if you want to just come in, and they say if you want to come in an African dress, you're more than welcome to, or just, tight-fitting clothes so they get an idea of your body shape, and then they'll come up with a costume for you. So the open casting call is Saturday and Sunday, November 5th and 6th. How fitting. You can go see Doctor Strange and then go and audition to be an extra in Black Panther, or also you can submit via email to Tammy Smith casting. And again, I've put a link below as to what they're looking for, the email address, the whole outline. So good luck to anyone in the Atlanta area, and I think that's really nice. Again, they shoot a lot of movies in Atlanta. Tyler Perry has a whole studio there, but it really is, I think, and especially considering the fact it's a city in the South, and to go from the South, having slavery, obviously, to having a predominantly African-American city today is, I think, a really interesting development in American history, and makes Atlanta a very interesting and unique and special city itself. So great place to shoot Black Panther. Very exciting. All right, so the second story of the day, I promised you 2 award stories. And the first is that Sony has decided, remember we talked before that a studio has to decide if a movie is going to be an awards contender. Ain't no one going to remember that movie for, nice purposes, to be kind. It's not like awards voters can get together and go, we really should nominate this movie. No, the studio has to say this is a contender. And they've decided, Sony, have Sausage Party be a strong awards contender, and 2 categories, Best Animated Feature and also Best Song. So they're planning a very serious push, and part of that push was to make this a headline yesterday in a number of the trades, and of course that story was picked up in multiple places, so don't kid yourself, the awards campaign has begun. So they're planning to do screenings, mailers, that's where they mail you a copy of the movie if you can't make it to a screening, ads, and more. So when you're logging on to the Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, Variety, in the next, close to award season when voting happens, you might very well see a Sausage Party ad. Also, they have a screening coming up, for instance, in West Hollywood, and they're going to invite not only voters in the animation branch at the Academy, but also several members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, which of course decide the Golden Globes. So they are off to the races. And some people have said, well, can Sausage Party, really win over the, awards voters, because they're an older, more conservative group. But they're also, I think, are also a very liberal group politically, and that's where I think Sausage Party is going to win. So I think they have a pretty strong pitch. It has an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's the most successful R-rated animated movie of all time, with 135 million worldwide. I think they fixed their animation problem. Canada's looking into that, so that's not too embarrassing for them. And I think that director, by the way, who was responsible for that, will not be at the screening. And then also, they mentioned, I think that Greg was the director who's in charge of that, and he, of course, will not be there, because I think they don't want anybody to ask him questions about that and distract people from the focus of the screenings. But then also, as I talked about in my review, Sausage Party is an anti-organized religion movie. And so I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people in Hollywood. I think they're going to think that's a good message to get out, and also how organized religion can sometimes lead to hate against groups outside of said religion. It made the movie pretty prickly, but people liked it. Again, it did well. And I think it's actually a very strong contender for at least, certainly to be nominated. I don't know if it would win, but it would be interesting, as much as I'm excited about the animated films this year, a lot of good stuff. I think Zootopia is probably the front runner at this point. We'll see how Moana is to win. But I think that it would be nice to break the animation voters out of just voting for the most successful movie and maybe trying to reward some artistry at some level, as we always talk about every year. Now, also going to help this is that on the circuit, on the awards circuit, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, who feel this is a passion project for them, are going to be making the rounds and will be doing interviews and talking to voters after they watch the movie. They're going to be really, shaking hands and kissing babies, as they say in the world of politics. And of course, Megan Ellison produced the movie, and she has a very strong relationship with Academy voters as well, from when she was working with Paul Thomas Anderson, etc. She's a fixture on the award circuit at this point, and I think her name has some weight to it. People are like, well, if Megan Ellison's behind it, there must be some level of serious artistry involved, because that's what Megan Ellison supports financially. So the song they're promoting is The Great Beyond, which Alan Menken wrote the music for, and it's actually a pretty good song. I had some problems with how inappropriate the movie got at the end. I felt that it was an NC-17 film, but I did think it was very smart and very clever, and I would entertain, I don't know, again, I wouldn't say maybe it should win, but I would certainly entertain nominating it as one of the top animated movies of the year. And South Park's Blame Canada was also nominated back in the day, so there's a precedent set for recognizing the song. And then Rogen had a great joke. He said one of the reasons he wants to do the awards circuit this year is, quote unquote, we all want to meet Leonardo DiCaprio. And I thought that was very charming. Leonardo DiCaprio, of course, infamously, to some degree, because he campaigned so hard, hit the award circuit last year for The Revenant. Like, wow, he did so many screenings. He talked to so many people. He was campaigning super hard. So I think to some degree, I don't know if he'll take a break this year and Rogen might be fresh out of luck, but that joke I think will play very well to the people that Rogen is screening Sausage Party for. And I think he's going to do a great job campaigning for the movie. So I'm curious, what do you think of Sausage Party? Do you think it has a good shot at Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song? And also, would you be interested in voting for it if you were one of these Academy groups, right? Would you be like, I do see where you're coming from, Sony. Let's consider it. All right, so here's the really juicy story of the day. Warner Brothers is suing Innovative Artists, which is a talent agency, for setting up and operating an illegal distribution ring of Academy screeners to hand out to people inside and outside of the agency. That is amazing. Now, for decades, this has always gone on. All the studios and production companies, as you can see, they're going to do it with Sausage Party, will send out Blu-rays at this point, or DVDs, to anyone who's an Academy voter, because they want them to watch the movie so that they will hopefully vote for it. So they go out in these beautiful packages, and it's like just something that happens every award season, and people for decades, as long as this has been going on, have passed it around to their friends, right? They're like, oh, here, take a look at it, just give it back to me, and they lend it out. And it's kind of like one of the perks of working in the biz, right? That you can get all these free movies around award season without having, you can see all the top movies without having to pay for them. Now, it's become more difficult in the digital age, and there are a lot more security measures that can be employed, like watermarks, which is the real problem here, which I think is going to eventually shut this down. Because in the past, everyone's been kind of cool with it and let it go, but not Warner Brothers, because what happens is that these movies pop up online. So what happened is that Warner Brothers sent copies of In the Heart of the Sea and Creed, hard copies, to clients of Innovative Artists, right? Because a lot of times they don't want to give out an actor or a director, etc., doesn't want to give out their home address. Understandable. So all their mail goes to their agent. So someone who's repped by Innovative Artists, Warner Brothers, says, okay, please consider voting for Creed, which was a strong awards contender. Here's a copy of Creed. We're sending it to you through your agent. Now, Warner Brothers says instead of that agent passing the movie, the screener, on to their client, they ripped it illegally and put it into a digital directory that was not only accessible to the client, or who knows if they even told the client about it, but it became something that anyone could use, not only within Innovative Artists, but it's something they could kind of give out as a perk to other people, like to their friends. Like, hey, you want to see Creed? I'll hook you up. Now, this is interesting because it's a far cry from Quentin Tarantino. He blamed, of course, Bruce Dern's agents for leaking the script to The Hateful Eight, but he didn't sue them. He got pretty upset about it and threatened not to make the movie, and he eventually did, thank goodness, because it's a great movie. But you can see, because it's becoming easier to tell, to brand a screener or a script as to who the recipient is, you can trace back the leak. So I think that you're probably going to be seeing, I think that it's such a big move to sue Innovative Artists over this. They're a smaller agency, so it's not like suing like CAA or William Morris Endeavor. But it's a pretty significant deal, and Innovative could have to pay a considerable amount of money. They said Warner Brothers is going after them very aggressively, and intends to make them pay the full amount that they are legally entitled to, which could be millions of dollars. I don't know if hundreds of millions of dollars, but I would imagine tens of millions of dollars. And I don't know if Innovative Artists can afford that. So at the very least, it's going to discourage anyone from ripping any hard screeners this coming award season, and maybe that's part of Warner Brothers' plan all along. But yikes! So I guess no more free movies for anyone who works in the industry unless you are legitimately a voter. All right, so finally, the viewer question. This is great. Yesterday we talked on Movie Math about Doctor Strange, and the release strategy that Disney is employing very effectively. And so Rockstar Skinnies has followed that up with a question saying, Grace, can you answer this really quick? Happy to do that. Why do people think a B-level character making his first appearance on the big screen, Doctor Strange, getting $500 million around that number in the box office is a flop? So obviously Rockstar Skinnies is wondering, can you consider how unknown Doctor Strange is to the general public? Why on earth would $500 million be considered a disappointment? And I see where you're coming from, Rockstar Skinnies. And quite frankly, I think B-level is generous when it comes to Doctor Strange. I would say in terms of relationship to the mainstream, I would almost categorize him as a C-level character. Not in terms of quality, I'm talking in terms of brand recognition, right? Real fringe stuff. So anyway, it's not that 500 million is a flop. All that Doctor Strange has to do is not come in last, because the audience is supposed to at least grow or remain steady. So Ant-Man, also not a particularly well-known character, did better than the first Captain America movie, way better, and also the first Thor. And the idea is that as your audience grows, more and more people will check out every Marvel movie. So Marvel can't afford to lose ground, especially as they plan to introduce new characters in their first movies, like Captain Marvel, who's coming up, and Black Panther. Although I think that Black Panther, of course, is going to have Winter Soldier and Captain America in it, which is going to help that movie significantly. But anyway, with Doctor Strange, which doesn't have any crossover, all it has to do is not do less than Ant-Man, and hopefully, ideally, do a little bit better. So that sets the bar at at least a 57 million opening, which is expected to easily clear so far. That all signs point to a much bigger debut than that, 70 to 80. And then also worldwide, it has to end up with over 519 million. Even if it's just the same, it would be fine. It would be nice if it was like the mid 500s, but that's all that Doctor Strange needs to do to be considered successful, right? Just he has to be successfully launched as a character. Although going forward, I still question this idea of making these solo movies, that don't have multiple characters in them. I think Thor and Hulk is a great idea. I think Black Panther, hopefully with Winter Soldier, and Captain America, great idea. Just like Iron Man's going to pop up in Spider-Man, and I think there's a rumor of a Black Widow cameo there as well. I think that's how these movies should progress, and I think that it's going to get increasingly difficult to introduce a character like Doctor Strange just all by himself. And also, I think you lessen the feel that you need to see the movie in theaters. Guardians of the Galaxy, of course, is a totally different situation because they're out in deep space, and the Avengers haven't gotten to space yet. So we'll see how it does. But again, all it has to do is, and Falcon was an Ant-Man, but I think Ant-Man was a different. I guess Ant-Man worked because it was like on a smaller scale, right? Like it was like a smaller story. But although you would think the Avengers would be aware of what Darren Cross was up to, the villain in the Ant-Man movie. But then also with Doctor Strange, it's taking place, I guess, in alternate dimensions. So unfortunately, there's nobody else in the Avengers who would be aware of such activity except for Doctor Strange, which I guess is why they'll recruit him. But still, I think that, once you bring the Avengers together, you kind of have to keep them together. So I think that's the only thing hurting Doctor Strange, and that it seems like it's kind of like on its own. And the only thing really making people feel like they definitely have to see it in theaters is that it's a Marvel movie, and also saying that Doctor Strange will be joining the Avengers in Infinity War, at least a little bit, so get to know him now. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. And again, Rockstar Skinnies, it just has to match or hopefully top a little bit Ant-Man, and it'll be considered in great shape. So that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below, I think, today's top 3 stories, Rockstar Skinnies question, any questions that you might have, and any stories you'd like to see covered tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye.